we finally, after many years, have a little bit of a look at some Trump tax returns. Here's how this all went down. Trump, of course, has been fighting the ability of the right now democratically controlled House to get their hands on his tax returns. He had exhausted all appeals, and they said, okay, here are the returns. This House Ways and Means Committee sort of just recently got a hold of these last month, and they've been deciding what to do with them and how they can release them. And so they took a vote this week saying, we are going to release these to the public. It is obviously at the 11th hour because Republicans are about to take control of the House. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. We don't have a full look at this yet, but New York Times has the top line key numbers from these 6 years of Trump tax returns. And you know, to be honest with you, there's nothing all that particularly notable in these top line figures. Some years he, according to his tax calculation, made money. Some years he didn't make money. There was one year where he literally paid $0 in taxes, which is a thorough indictment of our entire system of taxation, in my humble opinion. And there have been questions before about just how far he would go to stretch the legal limits of what you are allowed to deduct, not to mention the fact that his organization was just found guilty of tax fraud. So there are a lot of questions about the ways that he goes about calculating his taxes, none of which is particularly revealed by these top line numbers that we have here. So far, the biggest question is about why the IRS, for years after he became president of the United States, failed to audit his tax returns, which is something that they are actually required to do of every president every year by law. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. U.S. tax authorities failed to audit Donald Trump for 2 years while he was in the White House, Democratic lawmakers said, despite a program that makes that tax review of sitting presidents compulsory. The claim in a report issued by Democrats on the House Ways and Means Committee voting to release 6 years of Trump's tax returns raises questions over statements made by Trump and members of his administration that he could not release his tax returns, a convention for aspiring sitting presidents, because he was undergoing an IRS audit. It also, of course, raises questions over whether he was improperly influencing the IRS, whether the IRS was acting in a political manner. And there have been questions about this before because they just happened to, while they were not auditing Trump, they did just happen to pick James Comey and Andrew McCabe, two, of course, of Trump's enemies, to audit during that period. So it's raising some eyebrows. But I will say, Saagar, it's kind of complicated because the initial IRS commissioner or whatever the head leader is called over there was actually an Obama appointee.
That's what I was going to say.
And then, you know, later on, there was a lot of pressure put on McConnell to get Trump's guy that he liked in that place. So that sort of raised some eyebrows. But given the fact that you had multiple people in charge over this period and they weren't appointed, some of them directly by Trump, I think it looks to me more like incompetence than nefariousness, but I don't really know.
It's certainly possible. There's no way to know. What we do know is that Obama was audited his first year in office. Biden was also audited his first year in office. But also Trump's finances are much more of a mess than Biden or Obama's ever worse. And a lot of it was probably it's easier, obviously, to indict or to audit somebody who's poor, or in Obama and Biden's case, just mere millionaires, as opposed to billionaires. Issue with Trump also, he's got all kinds of shell corporations and foreign financing, and you know, having looked at some of his personal finances and stuff in the past, it's a massive mess. Just even trying to pull even some of the records from his New York-based businesses themselves. Actually, it's indicated, you can see in his tax returns, he only paid $1 million in taxes, even though he's worth several $1 billion. This is all part of the real estate scheming that he's been kind of a part of for a long time. I've always heard that if you want to make any real money in this country and also pay zero taxes, you should get into the real estate game. Because you can always write off like depreciation taxes and all of this madness. He
also, in that big tax cut bill, put provisions in place there that would directly lower his own taxes. So, I mean, to me, that's a scandal. The entire United States tax code, honestly, the fact that someone as wealthy as Donald Trump could have a year in which they pay zero in taxes, that is a massive scandal, but it's the sort of thing that's not really hidden. It's out in the open kind of scandal. The other thing that is a real head scratcher is when they did, so the reason the audit was triggered is because Democrats on this House Ways and Means Committee started asking about whether he's being audited. And that's apparently when the IRS was like, oh shit, we're supposed to be doing that. Yeah, we're totally on top of it. They assigned one person to do the audit. And as you said, I mean, he has to have the most complex personal financial situation and tax situation of any president in history.
Probably since LBJ and JFK.
It has to be extraordinarily complex. And, you know, and he uses all sorts of exotic maneuvers to try to evade taxes and is very aggressive about evading taxes. And has spoken publicly about that, has admitted to it and says basically like, you're a sucker if you don't do that. So to assign one dude to try to figure all of this out, you know, again, I don't know that it's nefarious. I think it's, again, an indictment of the whole U.S. tax system that the IRS has been stripped of funding, you know, especially by Republicans who have cut the budget over and over again. And rather than having the impact of, you know, making it easier and less of a burden on ordinary Americans, what it means is they don't have the resources to go up against the army of lawyers and accountants that a rich dude like Donald Trump ultimately has. So they were, I mean, they didn't stand a chance against Donald Trump and his billions.
That was my take too. Yeah, it's like Obama, when he came into office, all he ever did was literally run for office and write a book. All of his personal net worth was based off of checks from his publishers, or it wasn't that complicated.
Yeah.
Biden, I mean, the Hunter stuff and all of that, still a lot of questions, I think, that we should look into, but his own personal finances, Biden was actually quite poor until he left office. Even then, his net worth is only like less than $10 million. Now, again, I am saying only on the scale of people who hold the office, which I'm not saying it should be that way. Trump, of course, having one person versus his army of lawyers, that's insane. But let's take this as an opportunity to say that you, as an average American taxpayer, are far more likely to get audited and screwed by the IRS than Donald J. Trump and all American billionaires and 100 millionaires.
Yes.
And that is wrong. So this is a structural flaw. Remember, the IRS is 3 times more likely to audit somebody who makes less than $22,000 a year than it is to audit somebody worth over $1 billion a year.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit.
That is a massive scandal and wildly unfair and unjust. And the whole reason is because those tax returns are easy to audit. It's low-hanging fruit to go after the person who, you know, is a waitress and getting tips in cash and not 100% reporting them or whatever, than it is to try to go up against somebody like Trump with all his lawyers and accountants and, you know, complex shell companies and complex schemes that he's able to deploy here. So that's what we know so far. The expectation, I think, is that we're going to get more of a look at these things. There may be additional pieces that jump out that are revelatory, and we'll certainly keep our eye on it here. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.